A billionaire mocks when a little girl answers his phone speaking fluent Mandarin, but when she translates 3 whispered words in the background, he realizes the maid's daughter just saved his empire from a devastating betrayal. Just before we begin, your presence means a lot. Say hi and share where you're tuning in from only if you want to. The mahogany doors of Chen Industries' executive floor gleamed under crystal chandeliers as Marcus Chen straightened his $7,000 suit, preparing for the most important conference call of his career. At 34, he'd built an empire that made his competitors tremble, transforming his father's modest import business into a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate. His corner office overlooked Manhattan's skyline, a glass and steel monument to ambition realized through ruthless determination. Mr. Chen, your 3 p.m. with the Shanghai investors is in 5 minutes, his assistant Patricia announced through the intercom, her voice carrying the practiced neutrality of someone who'd learned not to show emotion around her volatile boss. Marcus didn't respond. He was studying the portfolio spread across his desk, projections, contracts, acquisition targets, numbers that would make most people's heads spin were his playground, his addiction. He'd cancelled lunch, again, barely noticed the coffee growing cold beside him, again. Sleep was for the weak, relationships were distractions. His ex-wife had learned that lesson the expensive way. The phone on his desk buzzed, not the office line, his private cell, the one only his senior executives had access to. Marcus frowned. No one interrupted him before major calls. No one dared. He let it ring twice more, a power play even with an inanimate object, before reaching for it. But his fingers never made contact. Chen Industries, how may I direct your call? The voice was high, clear, unmistakably childlike, and speaking absolutely perfect Mandarin with a Beijing accent so pure it could have come from the Forbidden City itself. Marcus's hand froze mid-reach, his brain stuttered, trying to process the absurdity. He stared at his phone like it had transformed into a talking dragon. The device sat on his desk, approximately 3 feet from where his housekeeper's daughter had been playing quietly in the corner. At least, he'd assumed she was playing quietly. He'd barely registered her presence when Carla had apologized profusely an hour ago, explaining that her regular childcare had fallen through, and could she please bring little Maya for just this one afternoon. He'd waved dismissively, not even looking up from his spreadsheets. Now the 6-year-old stood beside his desk, his $10,000 phone pressed to her ear, speaking rapid-fire Mandarin like a seasoned diplomat. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Chen is in a very important meeting right now," Maya continued in Mandarin, her tiny finger twirling a strand of her dark hair. "May I take a message? I'll make sure he receives it immediately after his conference." Marcus's shock crystallized into fury. His face flushed crimson. This child had answered his private line. The phone that contained direct access to board members, international partners, confidential contacts. "What the hell do you think you're—" he started, his voice rising to a roar that typically sent junior executives scrambling. Maya held up one small finger in a wait gesture that would have been comical if Marcus wasn't seconds from an aneurysm. She continued speaking into the phone, completely unfazed by his rage. "Of course, Mr. Liu. I understand completely. Yes, I'll relay that message. Thank you for calling Chen Industries, Zaijian." She ended the call with the same professional courtesy Marcus's own assistant used, then carefully placed the phone back on his desk, meeting his furious gaze with wide, earnest brown eyes. "You have 3 seconds to explain why you just—" Marcus began, but Maya interrupted him. "Mr. Liu from the Shanghai office called. He said he needs to reschedule tomorrow's meeting because his flight was delayed." She spoke in English now, her accent carrying just a hint of the outer boroughs, a sharp contrast to the Beijing Mandarin she'd wielded moments before. "He was very polite. He said he hopes it doesn't inconvenience you too much." Marcus's anger deflated slightly, replaced by utter bewilderment. He sat down heavily in his leather chair, staring at this child who'd just professionally handled a call from one of his most important Chinese partners. "You speak Mandarin?" "Yes, Mr. Chen." Maya nodded solemnly, as if this were the most obvious thing in the world. "You're 6 years old." 6.5, she corrected gently. "My birthday was in March. And you speak Mandarin fluently." Marcus felt like he was stating the obvious because his brain refused to process the impossible. "Yes, Mr. Chen. Also Spanish, French, and I'm learning Arabic, but I'm not very good at that one yet." She said this with the same matter-of-fact tone another child might use to list their favorite ice cream flavors. The guttural sounds are hard. Marcus Chen, a man who'd negotiated billion-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, who'd stared down corporate sharks and emerged victorious, found himself completely speechless. He looked past Maya to the corner where she'd been sitting, saw the pile of books that he'd assumed were picture books. Squinting, he could now make out titles: Advanced Mandarin Grammar, Conversational Arabic for Beginners, French Literature Anthology. "Those are yours?" he asked stupidly, pointing at the books. "Yes, Mr. Chen. Mama lets me borrow them from the library. Miss Chen, the librarian, not you. She helps me find good ones." Maya's expression brightened when talking about books, her whole face lighting up with genuine joy. Before Marcus could formulate another question, his office intercom buzzed. "Mr. Chen, Shanghai is on line 1 for your conference," Patricia announced. Reality crashed back. The call. The biggest deal of the quarter. The reason he'd been preparing all week. Marcus grabbed his phone, noticed his hand was actually shaking, from anger or shock, he wasn't sure, and jabbed the answer button. "Marcus Chen speaking." For the next 45 minutes, Marcus navigated the intricate dance of international business negotiations. The Shanghai investors wanted assurances, guarantees, subtle promises wrapped in diplomatic language. He delivered his pitch flawlessly, years of practice making it second nature. But throughout the call, he was intensely aware of Maya, who'd returned to her corner and was now reading one of those impossibly advanced books, occasionally glancing up at him with those disturbingly perceptive brown eyes. The call was going well. Better than well, actually. The lead investor, Mr. Wang, seemed particularly pleased with the projected returns. They were minutes from verbal agreement on a deal that would net Chen Industries $40 million in the first quarter alone. Then Marcus heard it. A second conversation, faint but distinct, happening in the background of the call. Chinese voices, distant but clear enough to make out words. Nothing unusual. Conference calls often picked up ambient noise. He was about to ask Mr. Wang to mute his line when Maya's head suddenly jerked up from her book. She'd heard it too. The child's eyes went wide, her mouth forming a small O of surprise. She stood up, leaving her book open on the floor, and walked quickly to Marcus's desk. He tried to wave her away, annoyed at the interruption, but she was insistent, tugging on his sleeve with surprising urgency. "Mr. Chen," she whispered, her small face grave. "Mr. Chen, please, I need to tell you something important." "Not now," he hissed, covering the phone's microphone. "Can't you see they're talking about stealing from you," Maya whispered, her voice barely audible but carrying absolute certainty. "The men in the background, they think you can't understand them." Marcus's blood turned to ice. "What?" On the phone, the other voices. Maya's eyes were locked on his, deadly serious. "They're speaking Mandarin. They're saying the numbers you're discussing aren't real, that there's a secret account, that after you transfer the investment they'll—" "Mr. Chen, are you still there?" Mr. Wang's voice came through the speaker, jovial and unsuspecting. Marcus's mind raced. This was insane. He was about to make a $40 million decision based on the word of a 6-year-old child who'd answered his phone without permission. But something in Maya's expression, the complete absence of playfulness, the adult-like gravity, made him pause. "Yes, Mr. Wang, I'm here. I apologize, but I'm going to need a moment. Can you hold, please?" Without waiting for an answer, Marcus hit the mute button and turned to Maya. "Tell me exactly what you heard." Maya took a deep breath, and when she spoke, her voice carried a precision that was almost eerie in someone so young. "There are two men talking behind Mr. Wang. One said, 'He's almost ready to transfer.' The other one laughed and said, 'The fool has no idea about the Cayman account.' Then the first man said, 'Zhang promises our cut within 48 hours. Each word landed like a physical blow. Zhang! David Zhang was Marcus's own CFO, his right hand, the man he'd trusted with every financial detail of this deal. "You're absolutely certain that's what they said?" Marcus demanded, his voice sharp as broken glass. "Yes, Mr. Chen." Maya nodded, and there was something almost apologetic in her eyes, as if she regretted being the bearer of such devastating news. "I'm very good with languages. Mama says I have a gift." "Eat!" Marcus unmuted the call, his voice now cold as a January wind. "Mr. Wang, I'm afraid something's come up that requires my immediate attention. I'm going to have to call you back." The confusion in Mr. Wang's voice was evident. "But Mr. Chen, we were just about to finalize." "I'll call you back," Marcus repeated, his tone brooking no argument. He ended the call before Mr. Wang could protest further. For a long moment, he just sat there, staring at his phone, his mind working through the implications at lightning speed. If Maya was right, and God, he hoped she wasn't, but his gut told him she was. Then he'd been walking straight into a trap. Zhang, his CFO. How long had this been planned? How deep did the betrayal go? He looked at Maya, really looked at her for the first time since Carla had brought her in. The child stood beside his desk, wearing a faded purple dress that had been washed so many times the color had gone pale at the seams. Her shoes were worn but clean, her dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked like any other 6-year-old from a working-class family, but those eyes held something far older than 6 years. "Where did you learn Mandarin?" Marcus asked, his voice softer now, the anger completely drained away. "Mama's friend, Mrs. Wang, taught me," Maya answered simply. "She lived in our building before she moved to her daughter's house in New Jersey. She was lonely because her family only visited on Sundays, so she taught me Chinese. She said I learned faster than her own grandchildren." A sad smile crossed her small face. "I miss her. She always made steamed buns with red bean paste." Marcus opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. His entire worldview was rearranging itself in real time. And the other languages, books mostly, and Mama's other friends. Mr. Rodriguez taught me Spanish. I helped him write letters to his sister in Mexico, and Mrs. Dubois from the 4th floor taught me French before she went to the nursing home. Maya recited this like a shopping list, completely unaware that she was describing abilities that would be remarkable in an adult polyglot, let alone a first grader. "Your mother knows you can do this?" Marcus asked, though even as the words left his mouth, he realized what a stupid question it was. Of course Carla knew. How could she not? "Oh yes, Mama is very proud," Maya said, her face lighting up again. "She says I should use my gift to help people. She says—" The child stopped abruptly, her expression clouding over. "She used to say that. Before the hospital." Something twisted in Marcus's chest, an unfamiliar sensation that took him a moment to identify. Sympathy. "Your mother is sick?" "Mama works very hard," Maya said quietly, her small hands clasping together in front of her. "Too hard, the doctors say. She cleans many offices so she can buy me books. Sometimes she forgets to eat lunch, so I can have breakfast before school. Last month she fell down at work, and they took her to the hospital. The doctors said she needs to rest more, but she can't because we need the money. The words were delivered with heartbreaking simplicity, a child's straightforward explanation of adult problems she shouldn't have to understand. Marcus felt something crack inside his chest, the same chest that had been armored for years against exactly these kinds of feelings. He thought about his own childhood, the privilege, the private schools, the assumption that anything he wanted would simply appear. He thought about what he'd become, rich beyond measure but isolated, successful but empty. And he looked at this 6-year-old child who'd just potentially saved him from a $40 million disaster, who spoke 5 languages and read college-level texts, who lived in a worn purple dress while her mother literally worked herself into a hospital. Marcus Chen made decisions for a living, split-second judgments that moved millions of dollars, that created or destroyed careers, that shaped the trajectory of entire companies. But the decision crystallizing in his mind now felt different, felt more significant than any boardroom vote or acquisition approval. He picked up his phone, not his cell this time, but his office line, and pressed the button for Patricia. "Patricia, get me security. I need complete surveillance logs for David Zhang's office communications for the past 6 months. Everything. Emails, calls, texts, faxes, if he still uses those. I want it in 30 minutes. Mr. Chen?" Patricia's voice carried surprise. "Should I notify Mr. Zhang that—" "No, tell absolutely no one. Wrote the request through external IT consultants if necessary. Bill it to my personal account." He paused, looking at Maya. "And Patricia, send Carla up here immediately." "Yes, Mr. Chen." He ended the call and turned back to Maya, who was watching him with those impossibly old eyes. "How would you like to help me with something?" "Help you?" Maya tilted her head, curious but cautious. "I need someone who speaks Mandarin. Someone I can trust." Marcus leaned forward, elbows on his desk, speaking to the child with the same seriousness he'd use addressing his board of directors. "If what you heard is true, and I think it is, then I have a serious problem. People in my own company are trying to steal from me. I need to find out who, how many, and how deep this goes. Would you be willing to listen to some more phone calls, more conversations, help me understand what's being said?" Maya's eyes widened, and for the first time since she'd answered his phone, she looked exactly like what she was. A 6-year-old girl being asked to do something far beyond her years. Like a spy? Despite everything, Marcus almost smiled. "Like a consultant, that's what we call it in business." "What's a consultant?" Maya asked, pronouncing the word carefully. "Someone who helps solve problems using special skills that other people don't have." Marcus watched her process this. "You have special skills, Maya. Very special skills. And I need them." The child was quiet for a long moment, her small brow furrowed in thought. Then she spoke, her voice carrying a wisdom that sent chills down Marcus's spine. "Mama says I should use my gift to help people. But Mr. Chen—" She looked up at him, and her next words hit him like a freight train. "Are you a good person?" No one had asked Marcus Chen that question in years. No one dared. People asked if he was successful, if he was ruthless, if he was smart. But good? The question hung in the air like smoke, impossible to wave away. Before he could formulate an answer, before he could even begin to untangle the truth of that question for himself, the office door burst open. Carla rushed in, her face pale with panic, still wearing her cleaning uniform with the Chen Industries logo stitched on the pocket. "Mr. Chen, I'm so sorry. I told her not to touch anything. I swear she knows better. Please don't fire me. I need this job. I'll make sure she—" The words tumbled out in a desperate rush. "Carla." Marcus held up a hand, stopping the flood of apologies. "Your daughter just saved my company from a $40 million theft." Carla stopped mid-sentence, her mouth hanging open. "What?" Marcus looked from mother to daughter, seeing for the first time the resemblance, the same determined chin, the same intelligent eyes, the same quiet dignity despite their circumstances. And he made the second major decision of the afternoon, one that would change everything. "How would you feel about a promotion?" he asked Carla. Then turning to Maya, he added, "Both of you." Outside the windows, the Manhattan skyline glittered with the promise of power and possibility. But inside Marcus Chen's office, something more valuable was taking root, the fragile, improbable beginning of redemption. Carla Martinez had cleaned Marcus Chen's office every weekday for 3 years. She knew the exact pattern of his coffee stains on the mahogany desk, could predict which files he'd leave scattered after late nights, had memorized the specific way he wanted his leather chair positioned to catch the afternoon light. In 3 years, he'd spoken directly to her exactly 4 times, twice to complain about streaks on the windows, once to ask if she'd seen a missing document, and once to grunt an acknowledgement when she'd said, "Merry Christmas." Now she stood in that same office, her cleaning cart abandoned in the hallway, staring at her boss as he offered her something called a promotion. The words didn't make sense. They couldn't. People like Marcus Chen didn't promote people like Carla Martinez. They barely acknowledged their existence. "I don't understand, Mr. Chen," Carla managed, her voice shaking. She kept one hand on Maya's shoulder, partly protective, partly needing something solid to hold on to. "What kind of promotion? I'm a cleaner. I don't have. I didn't finish high school. I can't. Can you keep a secret?" Marcus interrupted, his eyes sharp and assessing in a way that made Carla's stomach clench. This was the look she'd seen him give executives before firing them. "Yes, sir," she whispered, because what else could she say? "Can you be trusted with information that, if leaked, could cost this company hundreds of millions of dollars?" He stood up, walking around his desk with the predatory grace of a man used to dominating every space he entered. Carla's mouth went dry. "Mr. Chen, I don't know what Maya did, but I swear she didn't mean any harm. She's just a child. She doesn't understand about business or—" "Your daughter," Marcus said, cutting through her panic with surgical precision, "speaks better Mandarin than my entire translation department. She just identified a corporate conspiracy that my $50,000 a month security consultants missed completely." He stopped directly in front of them, and Carla realized with shock that his eyes were bright with something that looked almost like excitement. "So I'll ask you again, can you be trusted?" Carla looked down at Maya, whose small hand had found hers and was squeezing tight. Her daughter's face was solemn, watchful, wearing that expression she got when she was processing something far beyond her years. The expression that both filled Carla with pride and broke her heart, because 6-year-olds shouldn't look that serious. "What do you need us to do?" Carla asked quietly, making her decision. If there was even a chance this could help them, could give Maya opportunities she'd never have otherwise, then Carla would walk through fire. Marcus smiled then, a real smile that transformed his usually harsh features. "I need Maya to listen. And I need you to make sure no one questions why a cleaning lady's daughter is suddenly spending time in the executive suite." 20 minutes later, Carla found herself sitting in one of the expensive leather chairs she'd polished 1,000 times, watching her daughter perch on Marcus Chen's desk, his desk, wearing headphones connected to his computer. Maya's eyes were closed in concentration, her small face scrunched up in focus as she listened to a recording of a conference call from 2 weeks prior. "This is insane," Carla muttered, still unable to process the surreal turn her afternoon had taken. "This is necessary," Marcus corrected, standing beside his desk with his arms crossed, watching Maya with an intensity that would have seemed threatening if Carla didn't recognize it now as focus. "If Zhang is stealing from me, I need to know how deep it goes before I confront him. And your daughter is the only person in this building I can trust right now." "Why?" Carla asked. "Why trust us? You don't even know us." Marcus was quiet for a moment, his eyes distant. "Because you have no reason to lie to me. No corporate ambitions, no stock options to protect, no alliances to maintain. You're not part of the system that's trying to rob me blind." He paused, then added more softly, "And because Maya asked me if I was a good person, and I want to give her a reason to think I might be." Before Carla could respond to that shocking admission, Maya opened her eyes and pulled off the headphones. Her small face was troubled, older than it should be. "Mr. Chen." Maya's voice was small. "I think you should hear this part." Marcus immediately moved to the computer, pulling up the audio timeline. "Show me." Maya pointed with one tiny finger at a spot on the screen. Marcus clicked play, and Chinese voices filled the office. Carla couldn't understand a word, but she watched her daughter's face darken with each passing second. Finally, Marcus paused the recording. "What did they say?" he asked, his voice tight. Maya looked up at him, and Carla saw tears gathering in her daughter's eyes, something that made her maternal instincts roar to life. She stood up, ready to end this, to take Maya home where 6-year-olds belonged, away from corporate conspiracies and adult betrayals. But before she could speak, Maya said, "They were talking about your father, Mr. Chen. The man, Mr. Zhang, I think. He said your father was easier to manipulate because he was old-fashioned. He said you're smarter, but also more arrogant." She stumbled over the last word. "He said that would make it easier to trick you because you never think anyone else could be as smart as you." The silence that followed was deafening. Carla watched color drain from Marcus's face, then return in a furious flush. His hands clenched into fists at his sides, and for a moment she thought he might put his fist through the computer screen. "When was this recorded?" His voice was dangerously soft. 2 weeks ago. September 15th. Maya pointed at the timestamp on the screen. "They recorded it at 4:47 p.m. Marcus pulled out his phone, fingers flying across the screen. After a moment he let out a bitter laugh. "September 15th. That was the day I promoted Zhang to CFO. That was the day I gave him access to everything." He looked at Maya, and Carla was shocked to see something like respect in his eyes. "What else did they say?" "They mentioned someone named Thompson, and something about a yacht in the Bahamas. They were laughing about how you'd never think to look there because you hate boats." Maya tilted her head. "Do you hate boats, Mr. Chen?" "I get seasick," Marcus admitted absently, still staring at his phone. "Thompson. Richard Thompson is on my board of directors. He recommended Zhang for the CFO position." His eyes snapped up. "Maya, I need you to listen to something else. A different call. Can you do that?" "Yes, Mr. Chen." Maya nodded seriously, reaching for the headphones again. "No," Carla said firmly, surprising herself with the force of her own voice. Both Marcus and Maya looked at her in shock. "No, not yet. She needs to eat something first. It's past 5 o'clock. She hasn't had anything since lunch at school." Marcus blinked, as if the concept of a child needing regular meals was a foreign concept, which, given his lifestyle, it probably was. Right, of course. "Patricia can order—" "I have food in my locker," Carla interrupted, already heading for the door. "Sandwiches I made this morning. Give me 5 minutes." She left before he could argue, her heart pounding as she rushed down the hallway to the service area where the cleaning staff kept their belongings. Her hands shook as she opened her locker and pulled out the small cooler bag she brought every day. Inside were 2 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on discount bread, a bruised apple she'd gotten cheap at the market, and a small bag of carrot sticks. It looked pathetic compared to the catered lunches she knew Marcus Chen ate. Probably he'd never eaten a peanut butter sandwich in his life, but it was what she had, what she could afford, and it was made with love. That had to count for something. When she returned to the office, she found Marcus crouched down next to Maya, showing her something on his phone. They both looked up as she entered, and Carla was struck by how natural they looked together. The powerful CEO and the small child, bent over a screen like it was the most normal thing in the world. "I found a video of Mrs. Wong," Marcus was saying, "from the company Christmas party 3 years ago. I didn't remember her, but IT found her in the archived footage. Was this your friend? Maya's face lit up with joy as she looked at the screen. Yes, that's Mrs. Wong. Look, Mama, she's wearing the jade necklace I helped her pick out for the party. Carla moved closer, looking at the screen. There was Mrs. Wong, the elderly Chinese woman who'd lived 2 floors below them in their apartment building, smiling at the camera in the Chen Industries lobby. She'd worked as a part-time file clerk, Carla remembered. They'd become friends during long subway rides home. And when Mrs. Wong learned that Maya had a gift for languages, she'd insisted on teaching the child Mandarin. She was a good woman, Carla said softly. Maya cried for a week when she moved away. According to our records, she worked here for 15 years, Marcus said, straightening up. Never missed a day, perfect attendance. And I never knew her name until 10 minutes ago. Something in his voice suggested this realization bothered him more than he wanted to admit. Carla handed Maya a sandwich. Eat, she instructed gently. Then you can help Mr. Chen some more. Thank you, Mama. Maya took the sandwich with both hands, biting into it with the unself-conscious hunger of a child who'd learned young that food wasn't something to take for granted. Marcus watched this exchange with an unreadable expression. Then, abruptly, he said, "What's your salary, Carla?" Carla felt her cheeks burn. "Mr. Chen, I don't think—" "What's your salary?" he repeated more gently this time. 28,000 a year, she whispered, shame coloring her voice, even though she worked harder for that money than most people worked for 10 times as much. Marcus pulled out his phone again, typing rapidly. "As of today, you're my new executive assistant for special projects. Salary, 120,000 annually, plus health benefits for you and Maya. Full coverage, no deductibles." Carla's sandwich slipped from her suddenly numb fingers. "What?" "You heard me." Marcus didn't look up from his phone. "Your job is to coordinate Maya's schedule, handle logistics, and maintain absolute confidentiality about everything that happens in this office. You'll also continue your regular duties for cover, but Patricia will handle reassigning most of your cleaning route to other staff." "Mr. Chen, I can't, that's too much, I'm not qualified." The words tumbled out in a panic. "You're qualified to protect your daughter and keep your mouth shut. That's all the qualification I need right now." Marcus finally looked up, and his eyes were serious. "Carla, I'm about to go to war with people in my own company. Powerful people who've been planning this for months, maybe years. I need allies I can trust, and trust is in very short supply right now. You and Maya are those allies. Take the job." Maya tugged on Carla's sleeve. "Mama, that's a lot of money. That's more than your 3 jobs together." 3 jobs. The words hung in the air. Carla saw Marcus's expression shift as he processed that information, that his cleaning lady worked 3 jobs to support one 6-year-old child. "You have other jobs?" he asked quietly. "Evening shift at a diner on 42nd Street, weekend housekeeping at a hotel in Queens." Carla lifted her chin, refusing to be ashamed. "Whatever it takes to keep Maya fed and in school." "Not anymore," Marcus said firmly. "As of right now, your only job is here, and Carla." He waited until she met his eyes. "I'm going to need you to trust me. Can you do that?" Carla looked at her daughter, who was eating her humble sandwich in a billionaire's office, who'd just exposed a corporate conspiracy with skills she'd learned from a lonely old woman in their apartment building. She thought about the hospital bills from last month that she was still paying off in tiny increments. She thought about the notice from Maya's school about the field trip she couldn't afford. She thought about the worn purple dress her daughter wore because new clothes weren't in the budget. And she thought about Marcus Chen's question to Maya, "Are you a good person?" "On one condition," Carla said, surprised by her own boldness. "You treat my daughter with respect, not as a tool, not as a weapon, but as a child. She gets breaks. She gets normal kid time. And if this ever becomes too much for her, we walk away. No questions, no consequences. Marcus considered this for a long moment. Then he extended his hand. Deal. They shook on it, and Carla felt the surreal absurdity of the moment, a cleaning lady negotiating with a billionaire, and somehow, impossibly, holding her own. Good, Marcus said briskly, switching back into business mode with startling speed. Now, we need to move quickly. Zhang will notice if I start acting suspicious. Patricia doesn't know about this yet, and she can't, not until I'm sure who I can trust. What do you need us to do? Carla asked, still trying to process that she now made 6 figures a year. I need Maya to listen to 6 more recorded calls today. They're all from the past month, all involving Zhang or Thompson. I need to know the scope of this before I act. He turned to Maya, who'd finished her sandwich and was watching the adults with sharp attention. Think you can do that, consultant? Maya wiped peanut butter from her mouth with the back of her hand, a gesture so childlike it reminded everyone in the room that she was, despite everything, still 6 years old. I can do it, Mr. Chen. But can I ask a question first? Of course. When we catch the bad men, Maya said seriously, what happens to them? Marcus crouched down again so he was at eye level with her. They go to jail, Maya. What they're doing is called fraud and embezzlement. It's very illegal. Good, Maya said with satisfaction. Mrs. Wong always said stealing is wrong, no matter how much money you have. She said honor matters more than gold. Something flickered across Marcus's face. Pain, regret, recognition. Carla couldn't quite tell. Mrs. Wong was a wise woman, he said softly. I wish I'd known her. She's not dead, Mr. Chen, Maya said, tilting her head. She just lives in New Jersey now. Maybe you could visit her sometime. Unifound, the suggestion was so innocent, so perfectly childlike in its simple logic, that Carla saw it hit Marcus like a physical blow. When was the last time anyone had suggested he visit someone just to be kind? When was the last time kindness had factored into his decisions at all? Maybe I will, Marcus said, and he sounded like he might actually mean it. But first, we have to save my company. Ready? Maya nodded, reaching for the headphones with determination far beyond her years. As she settled back into her listening position, Carla caught Marcus's eye and saw something there that made her breath catch. Gratitude, yes, but also something deeper, something that looked like hope. Outside, the sun was setting over Manhattan, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Inside Marcus Chen's office, a cleaning lady, a billionaire, and a 6-year-old girl were about to bring down an empire of lies. And somehow, impossibly, they were becoming something that none of them had expected. They were becoming a team. Maya pulled the headphones on, pressed play, and the second chapter of this unlikely alliance began in the growing darkness, illuminated only by the glow of computer screens and the fierce light of determination in a child's eyes. The first 3 recordings revealed a conspiracy far more intricate than Marcus had imagined. By the time Maya finished listening to the 6th call, it was nearly 8 o'clock at night, and the little girl's eyes were drooping with exhaustion despite the crackers and juice boxes Marcus had sent Patricia to buy from the corner store, an errand that had made his assistant's eyebrows shoot up to her hairline, though she'd been too professional to ask questions. Mr. Chen? Maya's voice was soft, tired in a way that made Carla's heart ache. I think I found the most important part. Marcus, who'd been pacing his office for the past hour while making encrypted notes on his tablet, stopped immediately. Tell me. Maya rubbed her eyes with small fists, a gesture so childlike that it contrasted sharply with the adult content about to leave her mouth. They're planning to do it next Tuesday, October 7th. That's when the big transfer happens. Mr. Zhang told someone named Victor that you've already approved the investment documents for something called Project Sunrise. But the real money is going somewhere else. Project Sunrise, Marcus repeated, his face going pale. That's the Singapore expansion. $80 million. He sank into his chair, suddenly looking older than his 34 years. I signed those papers yesterday. Carla watched the color drain from his face and felt a surge of unexpected sympathy. She'd spent 3 years resenting this man, his wealth, his coldness, the way he looked through people like her as if they were furniture. But now, watching him realize the full scope of the betrayal, she saw something she'd never expected to see. Vulnerability. "Can you stop it?" Carla asked quietly. "Not without proof," Marcus said, his voice hollow. "If I accuse Zhang without evidence, he'll destroy the documents and disappear. Worse, the board will think I'm paranoid or incompetent. Thompson has too much influence." He looked at Maya, and Carla saw desperation in his eyes. Did they say anything else? Any details about where the money's actually going? Maya's lower lip trembled, and Carla recognized the signs immediately. Her daughter was about to cry. Not from fear or sadness, but from the overwhelming pressure of being asked to remember things that adults with years of training would struggle to recall. "That's enough," Carla said firmly, standing up and moving to her daughter. "Maya's done for today. She's 6 years old, Mr. Chen. She needs to sleep." But Marcus started to protest, then stopped himself. He looked at Maya's tired face, really looked, and something in his expression crumbled. "You're right. I'm sorry, Maya. You've done more than I had any right to ask. Thank you." Maya managed a small smile. "It's okay, Mr. Chen. I want to help. But Mama's right. I'm very sleepy. Can we do more tomorrow?" "Tomorrow," Marcus agreed. Then, after a moment's hesitation, he added, "Would you like to see something before you go?" He walked to a section of his office wall that Carla had always assumed was just expensive paneling. He pressed something, and the panel slid aside to reveal a hidden room, a small, comfortable space with a leather couch, a mini fridge, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city lights. "This is where I sleep when I work late," Marcus explained, something like embarrassment coloring his voice, "which is most nights. There's a full bathroom through that door, and the couch converts to a bed. I was thinking, if you're going to be working for me, you might need somewhere private to rest between shifts. Somewhere Maya can do homework or read without anyone asking questions." Carla stared at him, speechless. This was more than a generous gesture. It was a transformation. The Marcus Chen she'd known for 3 years would never have revealed this private space, would never have considered a cleaning lady's comfort, would never have acknowledged that a child might need a quiet place to simply be a child. "Thank you, Mr. Chen," Carla managed, her throat tight. This is more than kind. "It's practical," Marcus said gruffly, but his ears turned slightly pink, suggesting the compliment had affected him more than he wanted to admit. "You can't do your job if you're exhausted, and Maya can't help me if she's falling asleep on my desk. Speaking of which," he turned to Maya, who was exploring the small room with wide eyes, "I noticed you left your books in the corner earlier, the ones you were reading." "Oh!" Maya's face fell. "I forgot them. I'm sorry, Mr. Chen. I'll be more careful." "I had them sent to my apartment," Marcus interrupted. "All of them. And I ordered more. A lot more. They'll be delivered here tomorrow." He pulled out his phone, showing her the screen. "I wasn't sure what you liked, so I got a variety. Mandarin literature, Arabic for beginners, French poetry, Spanish grammar, also some books about linguistics and language theory, though those might be a bit advanced even for you." Maya's eyes went huge, and tears, different tears this time, happy tears, started rolling down her cheeks. "You bought me books?" "Consider it a signing bonus," Marcus said, looking uncomfortable with her emotional response. "Every consultant gets one." "Consultants usually get stock options," Carla murmured, unable to help herself. "She's 6, Marcus shot back. "What's she going to do with stock options? Books seem more practical." And then Maya did something that froze everyone in place. She walked straight up to Marcus Chen, this intimidating billionaire who made grown men stammer, and wrapped her small arms around his waist in a tight hug. "Thank you," she whispered into his expensive suit jacket. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Marcus stood rigid, his arms hovering awkwardly in the air, clearly having no idea what to do with a hugging child. Carla watched him struggle, saw the war playing out on his face, the ingrained coldness fighting against something warmer, something human trying to break through. Finally, hesitantly, Marcus's hands came down to rest gently on Maya's shoulders. The gesture was stiff, unpracticed, but genuine. "You're welcome, Maya." So when Maya finally pulled back, still beaming through her tears, Marcus cleared his throat roughly and turned away, suddenly very interested in straightening papers on his desk that were already perfectly straight. "It's late," he said, his voice gruff. "Patricia arranged for a car service to take you home. It'll be waiting downstairs. Tomorrow, come in through the executive entrance on 5th Avenue. Not the service door. Security will have your names. We'll meet here at 9 a.m. to plan our next move." Carla gathered their few belongings, her mind reeling from everything that had happened. As she took Maya's hand to leave, she paused at the door. "Mr. Chen, why are you really doing this?" Marcus looked up, and in his eyes Carla saw something raw and honest. "Your daughter asked me if I was a good person. I didn't have an answer. Maybe this is me trying to find one." The car ride home was surreal. The leather seats were softer than any furniture in their apartment. The driver called Carla ma'am and asked Maya if she'd like to watch a movie on the built-in screen. Maya fell asleep within minutes, her head on Carla's lap, exhausted from a day that had transformed their entire lives. Carla stared out the window at the city passing by, still unable to fully process what had happened. This morning, she'd been a cleaning lady barely making rent, worrying about how to afford Maya's winter coat. Now she had a 6-figure salary, health insurance, and her daughter was somehow a corporate consultant helping to catch white-collar criminals. It was insane, impossible, and yet it was real. When they arrived at their building, a rundown walk-up in Queens that suddenly seemed even shabbier after the luxury of Chen Industries, the driver insisted on helping carry Maya upstairs. Their apartment was on the 4th floor, and Carla had to apologize 3 times for the broken elevator and flickering hallway lights. "No apology necessary, ma'am," the driver said kindly, and Carla realized with a start that he was treating her with the same respect Marcus's executives received. Because that's what she was now, wasn't she? An executive. The thought made her want to laugh and cry at the same time. After the driver left, Carla laid Maya in their shared bed. They only had one bedroom, and Carla slept on the pull-out couch in the living room and stood watching her daughter sleep. Maya's face was peaceful, innocent, beautiful. 6 years old and already carrying burdens no child should bear. Carla's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Marcus Chen. This is now your direct line to me. If you or Maya need anything, day or night, you text this number. I mean anything, Carla. Medical emergency, safety concern, or just Maya wanting to talk about books. I'm available." She stared at the message, reading it 3 times to make sure she'd understood correctly. A billionaire CEO had just given her his personal number and told her to call any time. For anything. Slowly, she typed back, "Thank you, Mr. Chen. We'll see you tomorrow at 9. The response came immediately, "Call me Marcus. We're partners now." Partners. A cleaning lady and a billionaire. It would have been laughable if it wasn't actually happening. Carla didn't sleep much that night. She kept thinking about Marcus's face when Maya had hugged him, the shock, the awkwardness, the glimpse of something broken trying to mend itself. She thought about how he'd said he slept at the office most nights, how he'd admitted to never knowing Mrs. Wong's name, despite her 15 years of service. She thought about a man who had everything money could buy and nothing that actually mattered. And she thought about her daughter, brilliant and pure and impossibly gifted, who'd asked the one question that might save them all. Are you a good person? The next morning, Carla dressed Maya in her best outfit, a navy dress that was slightly too small but still clean and pressed. She French braided her daughter's hair with extra care and made sure they arrived at the Fifth Avenue entrance precisely at 8:55 a.m. The executive lobby was a different world from the service entrance she'd used for 3 years. Marble floors, modern art, a reception desk that looked like it cost more than her annual salary used to be. The security guard checked his list, found their names, and handed them each a badge with Chen Industries executive staff, printed in gold letters. "Mr. Chen is expecting you," the guard said respectfully. "Executive elevators are to your right." The ride up to the penthouse floor felt longer than it actually was. Maya held Carla's hand tightly, and Carla noticed her daughter was nervous for the first time since this whole thing started. "You okay, Mija?" Carla asked softly. "Mama?" Maya looked up with those impossibly wise eyes. "What if I made a mistake? What if I heard wrong? What if Mr. Chen gets in trouble because of me?" Carla's heart squeezed. Of course her brilliant, sensitive daughter would be worried about that. "Maya, listen to me. You told the truth about what you heard. That's all anyone can ask. Whatever happens next isn't your fault, okay? The bad guys are the ones who did wrong, not you." But the elevator doors opened directly into Marcus's office suite, cutting off Maya's protest, and what they saw made them both stop dead. The office had been transformed overnight. The conference table was covered with documents, multiple computers, and what looked like professional surveillance equipment, but that wasn't the shocking part. The shocking part was the elderly Chinese woman sitting at the conference table, sorting through files with practiced efficiency. "Mrs. Wong?" Maya's voice was barely a whisper. The old woman looked up, and her wrinkled face split into a huge smile. "Xiao Maya, my little linguist, look at you in your fancy building." She stood up, opening her arms, and Maya ran to her like a shot, nearly knocking her over with the force of her hug. "But how? You're in New Jersey." Maya was crying and laughing at the same time. "Mr. Chen called me last night," Mrs. Wong explained, her English heavily accented but clear. "He said he needed someone who speaks Mandarin and knows about honor. He said you were helping him catch thieves, and he wanted me to make sure you're treated right." She looked at Carla over Maya's head, her old eyes sharp. "This is good man, I think. Foolish sometimes, but heart is trying to be good." Marcus stepped out of his private room, and Carla saw that he looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept at all. But there was also something different about him. Something lighter. "Mrs. Wong has agreed to come out of retirement temporarily," Marcus said, his voice hoarse from lack of sleep. "She'll be our Mandarin verification specialist. If Maya hears something, Mrs. Wong will double-check the translation to make sure we have it right. I won't build a case on the word of a 6-year-old alone, no matter how brilliant she is." He looked at Maya. "No offense." "That's smart," Maya said seriously, still holding Mrs. Wong's hand. "Two people are better than one for important things. That's what they teach us in school for buddy systems." "Exactly," Marcus agreed. Then he took a deep breath. "I spent all night listening to those recordings myself, using translation software. Maya was right about everything, not a single mistake. But I need to know more. I need to understand the whole network, everyone involved, every account, every transaction." He looked at Carla. "This is going to take several days, maybe a week. Can you handle that?" Carla thought about her old jobs, the ones she'd quit via text message last night after lying awake for hours. She thought about the health insurance cards that had arrived via messenger at 2 a.m. Marcus had expedited them somehow. She thought about Maya's face when she saw Mrs. Wong. "We can handle it," she said firmly. "Tell us what you need." Marcus's smile was small but genuine. "I need my team ready for war, because that's what this is. And I don't plan to lose." Outside the windows, Manhattan gleamed in the morning sun, oblivious to the battle being prepared in a penthouse office. A battle that would be fought not just for money or power, but for something much more fundamental. For the answer to a 6-year-old's question, "Are you a good person?" Marcus Chen was about to find out, and so was everyone else. The war room, as Marcus had started calling his office, operated on a precision schedule for the next 3 days. Maya would arrive at 9 a.m. sharp, spend 2 hours listening to recordings with Mrs. Wong beside her, then take a mandatory break where she'd read her new books or play educational games on a tablet Marcus had purchased specifically for her. Carla coordinated everything, taking notes, organizing evidence, and, most surprisingly, offering insights that Marcus found increasingly valuable. "You notice things," he'd told her on the second day, after she'd pointed out that Zhang's assistant had started taking longer lunches right around the time the suspicious calls began. "You see patterns in behavior that my analysts miss." "I've been invisible for 3 years," Carla had replied quietly. "You learn to watch people when they don't know you're watching." Now, on Thursday afternoon, October 2nd, they had assembled a damning portfolio of evidence. Maya had identified 17 separate calls involving the conspiracy. Mrs. Wong had verified every translation. Marcus had cross-referenced them with financial records, finding discrepancies that painted a clear picture of systematic theft. But they had a problem. "It's not enough," Marcus said, rubbing his temples as he stared at his computer screen. "Everything we have is circumstantial. Good for internal investigation, maybe enough to fire Zhang, but not enough for criminal charges. And if I fire him without prosecuting, he walks away with whatever he's already stolen, and I look weak to the board." "What do you need?" Carla asked, looking up from the timeline she'd been creating, a visual map of every suspicious transaction. "I need the smoking gun, the actual evidence of transferred funds, bank records, wire transfer receipts, something concrete that ties Zhang directly to theft." Marcus stood up, pacing again. It was a habit Carla had noticed he fell into when frustrated. "Everything Maya heard tells us what they're planning, but I need proof of what they've already done." "Mr. Chen." Maya's small voice cut through the tension. She was sitting in her usual spot on the floor, surrounded by her language books, but her attention was on the adults. "Can I ask a question?" "Always," Marcus said, and Carla noticed how automatic that response had become. 3 days ago, he'd barely acknowledged Maya's existence. Now, he stopped everything when she spoke. "In the recording from September 20th, Maya said carefully, "Mr. Zhang was talking to someone about paperwork. He said something was hidden in plain sight. What does that mean?" Marcus and Carla exchanged glances. "Which recording?" Marcus asked, already moving to his computer. "Can you show me?" Maya came over, pointing at the file. Marcus opened it and they listened together. It was a brief call, one they dismissed as less important than the others. Zhang's voice came through clearly. "The beauty of it is, it's all documented, hidden in plain sight. He signs off on everything himself and never actually reads the fine print. By the time anyone notices, we'll be long gone." Marcus's face went pale. "The contracts. He's hiding it in the actual contracts I sign." He was already pulling up files, scanning through pages of dense legal text. "I sign dozens of documents a week, hundreds a month. I don't read every line. That's what lawyers are for." "But what if your lawyers are in on it?" Carla asked, the thought hitting her like ice water. Marcus's fingers froze on the keyboard. "Robert Morrison. My general counsel. He and Zhang have been friends for years. They went to business school together." He looked sick. "If Morrison is involved, then every contract I've signed in the past 6 months could be compromised." "How do we find out?" Carla asked. "We bring in someone Morrison doesn't know, someone from outside the company." Marcus was already reaching for his phone. "I know a forensic accountant who owes me a favor. She's in Boston, but she can be here tonight if I—" "Mr. Chen!" Patricia's voice came through the intercom, urgent and stressed in a way Carla had never heard. "Mr. Zhang is here. He doesn't have an appointment, but he's insisting on seeing you immediately. He says it's urgent." The room went silent. Maya's eyes widened. Mrs. Wong muttered something in Mandarin that sounded like a curse. Carla's heart started racing. "Does he know?" Carla whispered. "Could he have found out we're investigating?" "I don't know," Marcus said, his voice tight, "but I'm about to find out." He looked at Carla. "Take Maya and Mrs. Wong into the private room. Now, stay quiet, and whatever happens, don't come out until I tell you." "Marcus," Carla started. "Now, Carla." His voice had that CEO steel in it, the tone that expected instant obedience. Carla grabbed Maya's hand, and they hurried into the hidden room with Mrs. Wong. Marcus closed the panel behind them, and suddenly they were in darkness, except for the thin line of light coming from under the door. "Mama, I'm scared," Maya whispered. "Shh, Mija, it's okay, we're safe." Carla pulled her daughter close, feeling Mrs. Wong's hand find hers in the darkness. They were a chain of protection, these three women, huddled in a billionaire's secret room while danger walked through the door. Through the panel, they could hear Marcus's voice, calm and controlled. "David, this is unexpected. Come in." "Marcus." Zhang's voice was smooth, friendly even. Carla had heard that voice on the recordings, dripping with lies and conspiracy. Hearing it now, in person, made her skin crawl. "I apologize for barging in, but we have a situation that needs immediate attention." "What kind of situation?" "It's about Project Sunrise, the Singapore deal." A pause. "I've been reviewing the final contracts, and I found some discrepancies in the payment schedule. Nothing serious, but I wanted to bring it to your attention before the transfer on Tuesday." Carla felt Marcus's tension through the wall. This was it. Zhang was testing him, trying to figure out if Marcus had discovered anything. Discrepancies. Marcus's voice gave nothing away. "What kind?" "Technical details, routing numbers, intermediary banks. The legal team must have made some last-minute changes without informing us." Zhang laughed, but it sounded forced. "You know how lawyers are, always trying to optimize without considering the bigger picture." "Robert approved these changes?" Marcus asked casually. "He must have. They're in the final documents you signed last week." Another pause. "Actually, that's why I'm here. I need you to sign an amended version. Just a formality, really. But the Singapore partners are being particular about the paperwork." In the darkness, Carla squeezed Maya's hand harder. This was a trap. Zhang was trying to get Marcus to sign something, probably the final piece of paperwork that would complete the theft. "I'd like to review it first," Marcus said carefully, "with my legal team." Of course." Zhang's voice was still friendly, but Carla could hear the edge beneath it. "Although, Marcus, I have to say, and please don't take this the wrong way, you've been acting a bit strange this week. Patricia mentioned you've been working odd hours, having unusual meetings. Some of the staff are concerned." "Are they?" Marcus's voice had gone cold. "Which staff members specifically?" "Just general concern. You know how people talk." A pause. "Is everything all right, Marcus? You can talk to me if something's bothering you. We've worked together for years. I'd like to think we're more than colleagues. We're friends." Friends. The word hung in the air like poison. Carla could imagine Marcus's face, could almost feel his struggle to maintain composure while confronting this betrayal. "Everything's fine, David," Marcus said finally. "I've just been focused on some new projects. Nothing to concern anyone." "New projects?" Zhang's voice sharpened with interest. "Anything I should know about?" "Just exploring some opportunities. I'll brief the senior team when I have more concrete information." Marcus's voice was smooth, giving nothing away. "Now, about these amended contracts. Email them to me, and I'll have my legal team review them tomorrow. The thing is, Zhang said, and now his voice had lost all pretense of friendliness, I really need your signature today. The Singapore partners are getting nervous, and any delay could jeopardize the entire deal. Then they'll have to wait until tomorrow. Marcus's voice was final. I don't sign anything without proper review. You know that, David. The silence that followed was heavy, dangerous. Carla held her breath, felt Maya trembling against her side, heard Mrs. Wong's quiet prayer in Mandarin. Fine, Zhang said finally. Tomorrow then. But Marcus? A word of advice from one friend to another. His voice dropped lower, and Carla had to strain to hear. Be careful who you trust. This company has a lot of moving parts, and not everyone has your best interests at heart. You never know who might be working against you. The threat was barely veiled. Zhang knew something, or at least suspected. He was warning Marcus, or maybe threatening him. Either way, the game had just gotten dangerous. I appreciate your concern, Marcus said coolly. I'll keep that in mind. Footsteps, the office door opening and closing, then silence. Carla counted to 30 before the panel slid open and Marcus appeared, his face ashen. He knows something. Maybe not everything, but something. What do we do? Carla asked, stepping out with Maya still clutching her hand. We accelerate the timeline. Marcus was already on his phone, typing rapidly. I'm calling in the forensic accountant tonight. We work through the night if we have to. I need concrete evidence before Zhang realizes we're onto him. He looked at Carla. Can you stay late? I know it's asking a lot. I'll call my neighbor to check on the apartment, Carla said immediately. We'll stay as long as you need. I can help too, Maya said, her voice small but determined. I'm not too tired. Marcus crouched down to her level, and Carla saw something in his face that made her chest tight, genuine concern for her daughter, real affection. You've already helped more than I can ever repay, Maya, but I need you fresh tomorrow. There are more recordings to listen to, and you're the only one who can hear what we're missing. Okay, Maya agreed reluctantly. Then, with the blunt honesty of childhood, Mr. Chen, are you scared? Marcus was quiet for a moment, and when he spoke his voice was honest in a way Carla had never heard from him. Yes, Maya, I'm scared. Not of losing money. Money can always be replaced. I'm scared of what it means that people I trusted, people I considered friends, have been lying to my face for months. I'm scared that I've become the kind of person who doesn't even notice when the people around him are hurting. He looked at Carla, then back to Maya. But I'm also hopeful, because 3 days ago, I didn't have any real friends. And now I think maybe I do. Maya considered this seriously, then nodded. You do, Mr. Chen. You have me and Mama and Mrs. Wong. That's 3 friends. That's pretty good. That's pretty good, Marcus agreed, and when he smiled, it transformed his entire face. Now, how about we order dinner? My treat. What do you like, Maya? Pizza. Maya said immediately, then looked embarrassed. If that's okay, I know you probably eat fancy food. Pizza sounds perfect, Marcus interrupted. I haven't had pizza in. He paused, thinking. Actually, I can't remember the last time I had pizza. That's depressing. Very depressing, Mrs. Wong agreed, speaking up for the first time since they'd hidden. Man who forgets pizza forgets joy. We fix this tonight. 2 hours later, the war room had transformed into something that looked almost like a family gathering. Pizza boxes covered one end of the conference table. Marcus had ordered 6 different kinds because he wasn't sure what everyone liked. Maya sat cross-legged on the floor, teaching Mrs. Wong a card game, while tomato sauce decorated her chin. Carla was reviewing documents, a slice of pepperoni in one hand, marker in the other. And Marcus sat among them, his $7,000 suit jacket draped over a chair, his tie loosened, eating pizza and laughing at something Maya said. The forensic accountant, a sharp-eyed woman named Rachel Chen, no relation, who arrived from Boston at 9 p.m., looked around the scene with barely concealed amusement. "This is not what I expected when you said urgent corporate investigation," she told Marcus. "Nothing about this situation is what I expected," Marcus admitted. He gestured to the evidence spread across the table. "But that's what we have. Can you find the smoking gun?" Rachel picked up a folder, started reading, and her expression shifted from amused to deadly serious within seconds. "Oh, you've got more than a smoking gun here. You've got a whole arsenal." She looked up at Marcus. "This is going to take all night, maybe longer. But yeah, I can find it. These people were clever, but not clever enough." She noticed Maya watching her with interest. "Who's the kid?" "That's Maya," Marcus said, and his voice carried unmistakable pride. "She's our Mandarin specialist, and the reason we caught this in the first place." "Seriously?" Rachel looked at Maya with new respect. "You speak Mandarin?" "And Spanish and French," Maya said shyly. "And a little bit of Arabic." "Show off," Rachel teased gently. "When I was 6, I could barely speak English. You're going to do amazing things when you grow up, kid." "I want to be a translator," Maya said, "for the United Nations, so I can help people from different countries understand each other." Rachel smiled. "That's the best reason I've ever heard. Keep that dream, okay?" As Rachel dove into the documents, Carla watched Marcus watching her daughter. She saw something in his expression that she'd never expected to see: wonder, and something deeper. Something that looked like regret for everything he'd missed by closing himself off from the world. "Marcus," Carla said quietly, using his first name for the first time, "can I ask you something personal?" He looked up, surprised but not unwelcoming. "Of course. Why don't you have a family? I don't mean to pry, but someone like you. Successful, smart, not bad-looking." She felt her cheeks heat. "I mean, why are you alone?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment, watching Maya and Mrs. Wong play their game. "My ex-wife used to ask me the same thing. She said I was always alone even when she was in the room. I didn't understand what she meant until after the divorce." He turned to look at Carla. "I thought success meant not needing anyone. That vulnerability was weakness, that caring about people would make me soft, exploitable." He laughed bitterly. "Turns out, not caring made me blind. I surrounded myself with people who told me what I wanted to hear, and I never noticed that none of them actually cared about me either. They cared about my money, my power, my connections, not me." "And now," Carla asked softly, "now I have a 6-year-old consultant who asks if I'm a good person, a cleaning lady who negotiates like a CEO, and an 80-year-old woman who says I've forgotten joy." Marcus smiled, but his eyes were sad. "It's humbling, Carla, and terrifying. Because I'm starting to care what happens to all of you, and caring means I can be hurt again. Caring also means you can be happy again," Carla said. "Really happy, not just successful." Before Marcus could respond, Rachel's voice cut through the moment. "Found it. Oh, this is good. This is really, really good." Now everyone gathered around as Rachel pointed to her laptop screen. "See this? It's buried in clause 47 of a 200-page contract. A redirect clause that sends funds through 3 intermediary accounts before reaching the final destination. And look at the account numbers." She pulled up another document. "They match deposits made to accounts in the Cayman Islands. Accounts opened 2 months ago by, wait for it, David Zhang's cousin, Victor Zhang." "The Victor from the recordings," Marcus said, his voice tight with vindication. "The same. And here's the beautiful part." Rachel grinned like a wolf. "They got greedy." The same clause appears in 4 other contracts from the past 3 months, routing different amounts to different accounts. But when you trace them all back, they lead to the same network. I can document $15 million that's already been stolen. And if the Project Sunrise transfer goes through, it'll be another 80 million. Marcus stood there, staring at the proof of his CFO's betrayal, and Carla saw him transform. The vulnerable man who'd been eating pizza and talking about loneliness vanished, replaced by something harder, colder, more dangerous. Can this hold up in court? He asked. Absolutely. This is federal fraud, wire fraud, probably RICO if we dig deeper. These people are going to prison for a very long time. Rachel looked at him. What do you want to do? Marcus looked around the room, at Rachel with her evidence, at Mrs. Wong with her wisdom, at Carla with her strength, at Maya with her innocence and brilliance. His strange, unlikely team, his friends. We finish this, he said. We document everything, build an airtight case, and then we burn their whole operation to the ground. His eyes were cold as winter steel. They wanted to steal from me? Fine, but they made a mistake. They made me care about something other than money. And now I'm not fighting for my fortune. I'm fighting for the people they tried to use me to hurt. He looked at Maya. Your translator dream? I'm going to make sure you get there. Full scholarship to any school you want, starting now. College fund, language tutors, whatever you need. Marcus, Carla started, overwhelmed. Not charity, Marcus interrupted firmly. Investment. You're investing in my redemption. I'm investing in her future. Fair trade. He turned to Rachel. How long to document everything we need? Give me until Monday morning. I'll have a complete forensic report that'll make federal prosecutors weep with joy. Monday then. Marcus looked at his watch. It's almost midnight. Carla, take Maya home. Get some sleep. We have a war to win, and I need my team rested. As Carla gathered their things, Maya walked up to Marcus one more time. Mr. Chen, I think I know the answer now. Answer to what? Marcus asked, crouching down. To my question, are you a good person? Maya's smile was bright and certain. Yes, you are. You just forgot for a while. But you're remembering now. Marcus's eyes went suspiciously bright, and when he spoke, his voice was rough. Thank you, Maya, for everything. In the car ride home, Maya fell asleep immediately, exhausted from the long day. Carla held her daughter and looked out at the city lights, thinking about how much had changed in just 4 days. They'd walked into Chen Industries as invisible people, the cleaning lady and her too smart child. They were leaving as warriors in a battle against corruption, armed with truth and backed by a billionaire who'd finally remembered what it meant to be human. The war wasn't over. Tuesday was still coming, and with it, the final confrontation. But for the first time in years, Carla felt something she'd almost forgotten: hope. And in a penthouse office above Manhattan, Marcus Chen stood at his window, looking out at his empire, and felt the same thing. The game had changed, the players had shifted, and the ending was going to be nothing like anyone expected, especially not David Zhang. Monday morning arrived with the weight of inevitability. Rachel had worked through the weekend, and the evidence she'd compiled was devastating. A 147-page forensic report that traced every stolen dollar, every fraudulent clause, every lie that David Zhang and his conspirators had woven through Chen Industries. Marcus sat in his office at 6 a.m., long before anyone else arrived, reading through the report for the 3rd time. Each page was another nail in Zhang's coffin, but also another reminder of his own blindness. How had he missed this? How had he become so disconnected from his own company that an entire criminal operation had flourished right under his nose? The answer, he knew, was in the empty coffee cups scattered across his desk, the rumpled couch in his hidden room where he'd slept more nights than in his own penthouse apartment, the phone that only rang with business calls, never personal ones. He'd built an empire and lost himself in the process. His phone buzzed. A text from Carla. Maya wants to know if you had breakfast. She's worried about you. Marcus looked at the cold coffee that constituted his morning meal and felt something warm bloom in his chest. A 6-year-old was worried about him. When was the last time anyone had been? He texted back, "Tell her I'll have breakfast, if she has breakfast. Deal." The response came immediately. "She says deal. We're bringing bagels, the good kind from Goldberg's." Marcus smiled despite the gravity of what lay ahead. They were bringing him bagels, like he was part of their family, like he mattered beyond his bank account. By 9 a.m., the war room was assembled one final time. Maya and Carla, Mrs. Wong, Rachel with her fortress of evidence, and a new addition, FBI Special Agent Jennifer Morrison, who Rachel had contacted over the weekend with Marcus's approval. "Mr. Chen," Agent Morrison said, her voice professional but not unkind, "what we have here is substantial. Federal wire fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, money laundering across international borders. This is a minimum 20-year case, possibly more depending on what else we uncover." She looked at Maya, who was sitting quietly in her corner with a bagel and cream cheese. "And I understand we have a very special witness to thank for breaking this open." Maya looked up, suddenly shy under the FBI agent's attention. "I just listened, ma'am, like Mr. Chen asked." "You did more than listen, sweetheart. You caught criminals who thought they were smarter than everyone else." Agent Morrison smiled warmly. "The FBI could use someone like you in about 15 years. She's going to the UN, Marcus said firmly. "We already have plans." The possessive "we" in that sentence made Carla's breath catch. We. As if they were a unit. As if Maya's future was something they'd planned together. "Regardless," Agent Morrison continued, "here's the situation. We can arrest Zhang and his co-conspirators today, but I'd like to let the transfer attempt proceed tomorrow. If we catch them in the act of stealing the 80 million, it strengthens our case exponentially. Mr. Chen, I know that's a lot of money to put at risk." "Do it," Marcus interrupted. "I want them caught red-handed. I want there to be no possible defense, no technical loophole they can slip through. We do this right, or we don't do it at all." Agent Morrison nodded approvingly. "I was hoping you'd say that. We'll have agents monitoring all accounts. The moment they attempt the transfer, we move in." She paused. "There's one complication. Robert Morrison, your general counsel. He's my uncle." The room went silent. Marcus stared at her. "Your uncle?" "My father's brother. We're not close. Haven't been since I joined the FBI and he went corporate. But I need to recuse myself from his arrest personally. I wanted you to know that up front." Agent Morrison's face was professionally blank, but Marcus could see the pain beneath. "He helped raise me after my father died, and now I'm helping to put him in prison." "I'm sorry," Marcus said quietly, and meant it. He understood betrayal now, understood what it cost to do the right thing when it hurt people you cared about. "Don't be..." He made his choices. Agent Morrison stood. "We'll be in position by 8 a.m. tomorrow. The trap is set. All we need is for them to spring it." After the agent left, the room felt heavier somehow. Mrs. Wong was the one who broke the silence, her accented English soft but clear. "Tomorrow bad men fall, but today we remember why we fight. Not for money, for honor, for justice, for little Maya's future." "For Maya's future," Marcus repeated, and everyone in the room echoed it like a vow. The rest of Monday passed in strange suspension, like the held breath before a storm. Marcus went through the motions of his normal schedule, signing documents, attending meetings, all while knowing that tomorrow everything would change. Zhang came by twice, pressing about the amended contracts, his friendly mask slipping to reveal frustration underneath. "Tomorrow," Marcus promised each time. "I'll sign them first thing tomorrow morning. I have meetings all day today." Zhang's eyes narrowed, suspicious but unable to prove anything. "Tomorrow then. Don't forget, Marcus. A lot of people are depending on this deal." "I won't forget," Marcus said, meeting his CFO's eyes steadily. "Trust me, David, tomorrow is going to be unforgettable." That evening, Marcus did something he hadn't done in years. He left the office at 6 p.m. He went to Carla's apartment in Queens, climbing 4 flights of stairs in a building that smelled like cooking and life, so different from his sterile penthouse. Carla opened the door, surprised but welcoming. "Marcus, is everything okay?" I wanted to check on Maya, and I wanted to say thank you properly. He held up a bag. I brought Chinese food, Mrs. Wong's recommendation. She said if I was going to learn about joy, I needed to start with good dumplings. Maya appeared behind her mother, her face lighting up. "Mr. Chen, you came to our house." "I did. Is that okay?" "It's wonderful." Maya grabbed his hand, pulling him inside. "Come see my room. Mama let me put up the map you got me, the one with all the countries labeled in different languages." The apartment was tiny. Marcus's closet was probably bigger, but it was warm, lived in, filled with the kind of details that made a place a home. Photos on the walls, mostly of Maya at different ages, a bookshelf overflowing with library books, a small table set for dinner with mismatched plates that somehow looked perfect together. They ate sitting on the floor around the coffee table because the kitchen table only had 2 chairs. Maya chatted about school, about the new words she'd learned, about her teacher who said she might skip a grade. Carla told stories about the other tenants in the building, the small dramas and kindnesses that made up daily life. And Marcus listened, really listened, realizing this was what he'd been missing, not wealth or power or success. This. Connection, belonging, family. "Mr. Chen," Maya asked as they finished eating, "after tomorrow, will everything go back to normal?" Marcus looked at this brilliant child who changed his life in less than a week. "What do you think normal should be?" Maya considered this with her characteristic seriousness. "I think normal should be you coming for dinner sometimes, and maybe teaching me about business, because I want to understand how companies work. And maybe," she hesitated, then continued bravely, "maybe you could meet my teacher at parent-teacher conferences. Because Mama has to work 2 jobs, and sometimes she can't go, and it makes her sad even though she says it's okay." Carla's eyes filled with tears. "Maya, you don't have to." "I'd be honored," Marcus interrupted, his voice thick. "If your mum says it's okay, I'd love to come to your conferences and dinners. And anything else you want me to be part of." Maya beamed. Carla wiped her eyes, and Marcus felt something crack open in his chest, something that had been frozen for years, finally thawing. Later, after Maya had gone to bed, Marcus and Carla stood by the window looking out at the city. "Are you scared?" Carla asked quietly. "About tomorrow?" "Terrified," Marcus admitted. "Not of Zhang, or the confrontation, or even the money. I'm terrified that after tomorrow, when this is all over, I'll go back to who I was before, alone in my tower, surrounded by people who don't really see me." He turned to look at her. "Promise me something, Carla. Don't let me disappear again. Even if I try to push you away, even if I get caught up in work and forget what matters, don't let me forget this. What we built this week, this team, this family." Carla reached out and took his hand, the gesture simple but profound. "You're not going back, Marcus. We won't let you. You're one of us now, whether you like it or not." "Duh, I like it," Marcus said softly. "More than anything I've liked in a very long time." He left the apartment at 9 p.m., taking the subway back to Manhattan, another first. Sitting among the tired workers heading home from late shifts, he felt more grounded than he ever had in his private car. These were real people, living real lives, and for the first time in years, he felt like he might be one of them. Back in his office, Marcus made one final call. "Agent Morrison, everything's set for tomorrow. 9 a.m., Zhang will request my signature on the transfer documents. I'll pretend to review them, take my time, make sure your team has every second they need to trace the money the moment he initiates the theft." "We'll be ready," Agent Morrison confirmed. "Mr. Chen, what you're doing, catching these people, protecting your company, it takes courage. But the way you've changed, the way you've opened yourself up to caring again, that takes more courage than most people ever have. Your father would be proud." Marcus's throat tightened. His father. The man who'd built this company with his bare hands, who'd believed in honor and integrity, who'd died disappointed in the son, who'd valued profit over principle. "I hope so," Marcus whispered. "I really hope so." That night, Marcus didn't sleep in his office. He went home to his penthouse, to the apartment he barely lived in, and he looked around at all his expensive, empty things. Tomorrow he'd bring down a conspiracy. He'd save his company. He'd prove that he could be the man his father had wanted him to be. But more than that, he'd proved something to a 6-year-old girl who'd asked the only question that mattered: "Are you a good person?" Tomorrow, the world would have its answer. And so would Marcus Chen. He set his alarm for 5 a.m., laid down in his own bed for the first time in weeks, and somehow, despite everything, he slept like a child. Outside his window, Manhattan glittered with possibility, unaware that in the morning justice was coming. And it was being delivered by the most unlikely team imaginable: a reformed billionaire, a cleaning lady with steel in her spine, an elderly Chinese woman who remembered honor, and a 6-year-old girl who could hear the truth in any language. David Zhang had no idea what was about to hit him, but he was about to find out. Tuesday, October 7th, dawned clear and cold over Manhattan. Marcus arrived at his office at 7 a.m. to find Agent Morrison's team already in position. FBI technicians monitoring every digital transaction, agents stationed on multiple floors, plainclothes officers in the lobby. The trap was set with precision that would have impressed a Swiss watchmaker. Carla and Maya arrived at 8:30, both dressed carefully for what Maya had insisted on calling Justice Day. Mrs. Wong came with them, wearing jade earrings that Marcus had learned were her lucky court testimony jewelry from a case decades ago in Beijing. "Everyone ready?" Marcus asked, looking at his unlikely team assembled one final time in the war room. "We're ready," Carla said firmly, though her hand found Maya's shoulder in a protective gesture that made Marcus's heart ache. At 8:57 a.m., Zhang knocked on Marcus's door. Patricia announced him with the same professional courtesy she always used, unaware she was announcing the arrival of a man about to be arrested for federal crimes. "David," Marcus said, gesturing him in, "right on time. I appreciate punctuality." Zhang entered carrying a leather portfolio, his smile confident and relaxed. He had no idea that behind the hidden panel, Maya and Carla were watching through a small video feed that Agent Morrison had installed. He had no idea that FBI agents were 3 floors below, monitoring his every word. He had no idea his entire world was about to collapse. "I have the amended Project Sunrise contracts," Zhang said, laying papers across Marcus's desk. "I've highlighted where you need to sign. It's all standard, just technical updates to the routing protocols. Nothing to worry about." Marcus picked up the first document, pretending to read while his heart hammered against his ribs. These weren't standard contracts. These were elaborate fraud instruments designed to steal $80 million from his company while making it look completely legitimate. "I notice the intermediary banks have changed," Marcus said casually, pointing to a clause. "Why the new routing?" "Better exchange rates," Zhang answered smoothly. "The Singapore partners requested it. You know how particular they can be about minimizing fees." It was a lie so smooth, so practiced, that Marcus almost admired the audacity. Almost. "And Robert approved these changes?" he asked. "Personally reviewed them yesterday," Zhang confirmed. "Everything's been vetted by legal. You just need to sign and we can initiate the transfer." In the hidden room, Maya watched the video feed with solemn eyes. She'd heard Zhang's voice on dozens of recordings, had learned to identify his lies by the subtle shifts in tone that only her gifted ears could detect. Now she whispered to her mother, "He's lying about Mr. Morrison." His voice goes up at the end, just a little. That's his lying voice. Carla squeezed her daughter's hand, pride and sadness mixing in her chest. 6 years old, and already bearing witness to the worst of human nature. But also the best, because they were here, fighting for what was right. Marcus picked up his pen, holding it over the signature line. Zhang's eyes gleamed with barely concealed triumph. This was it, the moment he'd been planning for months, the moment he thought he'd won. "Before I sign," Marcus said slowly, "I want to ask you something, David. We've worked together for 3 years. You've been to my home. You were at my father's funeral. You gave the eulogy, remember? You talked about honor and loyalty and carrying on his legacy." Zhang's smile flickered, uncertain now. "Of course I remember. Your father was a great man." "He was," Marcus agreed. "He built this company on integrity. He used to say that a man's word was more valuable than any contract, that trust was the only currency that truly mattered." Marcus set down the pen without signing. "So I'm asking you, as someone I thought was my friend, is there anything about these contracts I should know? Anything that doesn't quite match what you're telling me?" The silence that followed was electric with tension. Zhang's smile had frozen into something plastic and wrong. "Marcus, what are you implying?" "I'm not implying anything," Marcus said calmly. "I'm asking directly. Are these contracts legitimate, or are you trying to steal from me?" Zhang's face went through a fascinating transformation. Shock, anger, fear, calculation, all flickering past in seconds. Then his expression hardened into something cold and ugly. "I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but I don't appreciate the accusation. If you don't trust me after 3 years—" "I don't," Marcus interrupted. "I don't trust you. I also don't trust the $15 million you and your cousin Victor already stole through similar contract manipulations over the past 6 months." Zhang went white. I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do. You know exactly what I'm talking about." Marcus stood up, and his voice was cold as winter steel. "The Cayman Island accounts, the routing through intermediary banks, the yacht in the Bahamas where you and Thompson planned to celebrate. I know all of it, David. Every call, every transaction, every lie." "You're insane," Zhang said, but his voice shook. "You have no proof. FBI." Agent Morrison's voice rang out as she and 3 other agents burst through the door, weapons drawn. "David Zhang, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, money laundering and theft in excess of $15 million. You have the right to remain silent." The hidden panel slid open and Maya ran out, not toward the FBI agents or the drama unfolding, but straight to Marcus. She wrapped her arms around his waist, holding tight as if she could protect him from whatever pain this betrayal had caused. Marcus's hand came down to rest on her head, gentle and protective, as they watched FBI agents handcuff his former CFO. Zhang was shouting now, threats and denials and desperate bargains, but his words fell on deaf ears. The evidence was overwhelming. The case was airtight. It was over. "We're also executing arrest warrants for Robert Morrison, Richard Thompson, and 4 other individuals connected to this conspiracy," Agent Morrison announced. "Mr. Chen, your company is secure. The funds that were already stolen are frozen pending recovery proceedings. Project Sunrise is safe." Marcus nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. He'd won. He'd saved his company, caught the criminals, protected his father's legacy. But that wasn't what made his eyes burn with unshed tears. What broke him was the 6-year-old girl holding on to him like he mattered, like he was worth protecting, like he was family. After Zhang was taken away, after the FBI cleared out, after the storm had passed and left only quiet in its wake, Marcus sank into his chair with Maya still in his arms. Carla and Mrs. Wong emerged from the hidden room, and without discussion, they all came together, an unlikely huddle of people who'd become something more than a team. They'd become a family. "Is it really over?" Maya asked, her voice muffled against Marcus's suit jacket. "The legal part isn't over," Marcus said honestly. "There will be trials and testimonies and probably years of legal proceedings. But the dangerous part—" "Yes, Mija, that's over. You're safe. We all are." "Mija, The Spanish endearment had slipped out naturally, and Carla's eyes filled with tears hearing it. Marcus, using her language, her term of affection for her daughter, claiming Maya as his own in the most fundamental way. "What happens now?" Carla asked, wiping her eyes. Marcus looked at each of them, Carla with her strength and dignity, Mrs. Wong with her wisdom and honor, Maya with her brilliance and innocence. His family, his real family, chosen not by blood, but by something stronger, shared purpose, mutual respect, and love that had grown in the spaces between the danger. "Now we build something better," Marcus said. "I'm restructuring the company. New leadership, new ethics, new priorities. And I'm creating a new division, Chen Industries Community Foundation. Carla, you'll run it. Full executive position, board seat, the works. Our mission will be identifying gifted children from underserved communities and providing them with resources, education, opportunities they'd never have otherwise." Carla stared at him. "Marcus, I'm not qualified to—" "You're the most qualified person I know," Marcus interrupted firmly. "You raised a genius while working 3 jobs. You negotiated with a billionaire and won. You recognized patterns my $50,000 a month consultants missed. If that's not qualification, I don't know what is." "And me?" Maya asked hopefully. "What do I do?" Marcus smiled down at her. "You, consultant Maya, are going to be our youngest board advisor. You'll help us understand what kids actually need, not what adults think they need. Also, you're going to the best private school in Manhattan with full scholarship, and you're getting language tutors." And he paused, suddenly nervous, in a way that corporate negotiations had never made him. "If your mum agrees, I'd like to be part of your life. Really part of it. School events, birthdays, teaching you about business, helping with homework, all of it." "Like a godfather?" Maya asked. "Like a godfather," Marcus agreed, looking at Carla for permission. Carla's tears were flowing freely now, but she was smiling. "I think that sounds perfect." "Good," Mrs. Wong said with satisfaction. "Now we celebrate. No more conspiracy, no more bad men. Now we have joy. Real joy, not the kind Mr. Chen forgot about." They celebrated with lunch from Maya's favorite diner. Grilled cheese and milkshakes, simple food that tasted like happiness. They laughed and told stories and made plans for the future. Marcus called his assistant and cleared his schedule for the rest of the week, something he'd never done in his entire career. As the afternoon sun streamed through the windows, Maya fell asleep on the couch in Marcus's hidden room, exhausted from the emotional morning. Marcus carried her gently, laying her down and covering her with his suit jacket like a blanket. "She asked me if I was a good person," Marcus said quietly to Carla, watching Maya sleep. "The first day, I didn't have an answer." "And now?" Carla asked. Marcus thought about the past week, the conspiracy, the betrayal, the fear, but also the connection, the growth, the transformation. He thought about how Maya had seen through his defenses to ask the one question that mattered. He thought about Carla's courage and Mrs. Wong's wisdom. He thought about choosing honor over profit, people over power, family over isolation. "Now I think I'm becoming one," he said. "It's a work in progress, but I'm trying." "That's all anyone can ask," Carla said softly. 3 months later, Chen Industries Community Foundation opened its doors. The first class of students included 15 children from Maya's school district, all gifted, all from families who couldn't afford enrichment programs. Maya helped interview each one, asking them questions in multiple languages and laughing with delight when some of them answered in their native tongues. The conspiracy trials made headlines for weeks, but Marcus stayed out of the spotlight, letting the legal system handle justice while he focused on building something better. Zhang and Thompson got 25 years each. Robert Morrison cooperated with prosecutors and got 15. The stolen money was recovered, and Marcus donated all of it to educational non-profits. On a cold December evening, Marcus stood in Carla's apartment, which was actually his apartment now. He'd bought the building and renovated it, but insisted Carla and Maya stay in their same unit because it was home, watching Maya teach 3 younger kids basic Mandarin phrases. She was patient and encouraging, a natural teacher, already living into her dream of helping people understand each other. "She's going to change the world," Carla said, coming to stand beside him. "She already has," Marcus replied. "She changed mine." That night, tucking Maya into bed, a nightly ritual he'd been part of for months now, she asked him one more question. "Mr. Marcus, are you happy?" Marcus looked around the small, warm bedroom with its map-covered walls and overflowing bookshelves, heard Carla humming in the kitchen while she made tea, felt the weight of belonging that he'd spent decades running from. "Yes, Mija," he said, kissing her forehead. "I'm happy, really, truly happy." "Good," Maya said sleepily. "Because you're family now, and family should be happy. Family should be happy. Such simple wisdom from such a small person." Marcus turned out the light and walked into the living room where Carla had tea waiting, where Mrs. Wong would arrive any minute for their weekly Chinese lessons, where his real life, the one that mattered, was waiting for him. He'd started as a billionaire who had everything and nothing. He'd become a man who had less money but infinitely more wealth, the wealth of connection, of purpose, of love. All because a 6-year-old girl had answered his phone and asked him one perfect question: "Are you a good person?" He was still working on the answer, but every day, with this family he'd found in the most unexpected place, he was getting closer to yes. And that, Marcus Chen finally understood, was what success actually looked like.